Call this meeting to order. 6:03 p.m. Tuesday, November 1st, 2022. City of Somerton work session. A roll call.
Mayor Gerardo Naya.
Present.
Vice Mayor Miguel Villalpando. Councilmember Luis Galindo.
Present.
Councilmember Jesus Roldan.
Present.
Councilmember Martha Gonzalez.
Present.
Councilmember Juan Castillo.
Present.
Councilmember Lorena Delgadillo.
Present.
Mayor, have a quorum.
We're going to go straight to the first item, presentation and discussion to select an alternate project site for the planning and building design for multi-use community facility expansion project to be designed by Last Architects.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Andrea, can we scroll down, please? Okay, so this is what you have here in front of you. After conversations and having had several community design review meetings, one of the issues that keeps coming up is parking, right? And for the expansion of the community center. And so it was brought up to our attention that perhaps the 20 acres would be a suitable location. And this I got with Community Development Director Saul, and Saul put together this conceptual design for us to allow us to present it to Mayor and Council to see, if this would be much more of a feasible opportunity for Mayor and Council to accept. When it comes to economic development, when we look at the redevelopment plan, as the economic development director, I support Main Street for economic development, of course. However, in having this project, it comes to us that the 20 acres was never a site that was actually seen. And so this is another option that we present to Mayor and Council today to see if questions, concerns, and Saul can go ahead and explain a little bit more in terms of the parking situation and what it would allow for us and to really interpret his design. This design, as we have communicated about, is would allow for a different, as we see it, vision for the city of Somerton, where you have a new community center, but then we also have the pond, we have an area for outdoor events, and it really sets the tone for a very nice future.
Mayor and Council, as Marlene mentioned, the 20-acre site we never thought of it as a possible option. So from the planning and zoning side, and also from the economic development side, when that 20-acre site all of a sudden becomes a possibility, I can't help but dream big with such amount of land, which is why you see such a much larger scale of the project. But this is just what could be. It doesn't have to be developed out immediately. This could perhaps grow into something like this. But this visual aid is for you to see the possibilities of the larger site to the west of the city, on the western edge of the city, sorry. And I am available for any questions related to parking or dimensions, circulation.
I know when we saw this, those two sites, it was, we were split, and just the Main Street site was the one that was picked by council, but, we didn't have this site, and when we started looking at it, at least the concern was the parking there on Main Street, and just knowing that we were going to have a brand new city building with constraints starting, and how divided we were here. We just won by one vote. So this is an alternate that we're at that point in the design that we still can make we can make the change. We still haven't gotten the surveying for that, and anticipate we're probably going to have to pace amount for the change order, but we're still at that point that we're not too advanced that we can make that change and start looking at this this development efforts here on the west side of the city and where the high school and the other development will be. At least for me, it just makes sense here, and just we have this land, and I think it's going to be a cleaner and a more at least a planned project, and we can start with a clean slate on this side. Any comments or questions from council?
I know we had spoken about, the decision was Main Street. That new land that we purchased, is that an option for parking? To have additional parking, actually, if we were to expand there. But number two is my concern, and my vote was, are we going to have to pay out back those monies that we got for
FEMA?
Yeah, that's my concern if we change it.
To your first question, Councilmember Gonzalez, the new land, the new acquisition that was done by the city, that is certainly an option for parking. Right now, the site is compliant with the parking requirements at the current 8,860 square feet of the community center. There's about 40 on-site parking spaces. So right now it's in compliance. Now, when you add the addition that we've been talking about, the extra 8,000 square feet, that would put us at a required 56 parking spaces. So we'll have to accommodate almost double the parking, and it'll almost certainly have to utilize that new land, or a chunk of it at least.
And according to our new city manager, it does allow for, if we change it, right, to use those monies for infrastructure or.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Vice Mayor's not in. ARPA does allow for infrastructure, so parking would be allowed to be used because that is part of infrastructure. Now, to the point of Councilwoman asking if that isn't utilized, then we would have to definitely look at the ARPA funding to be reallocated back or used for another project.
Yeah, and that's a decision. If we move, we're probably going to have to credit back those monies that we paid for. That's not used for parking. If we use it for economic development or whatever, then.
But if we do add additional parking space for what we have right now, then we'll be good.
You can use ARPA funding for infrastructure would be parking. But I think one of the other questions would be if that space would be better utilized for another business or another type of commercial development that would bring tax revenue. So that would be something that Mayor and Council you would consider.
But then we would have to get the money.
That is correct.
That would have to reimburse it, yeah. Yes.
Yes, now that this is an option, let's say hypothetically, before this concept was, what was the time to go there before?
So this is the council member Castillo. This is the 35 acres total gross area. Well, the pond and the park, that's always been an idea for it. So that was always going to occupy somewhere between 10 to 15 acres. The other half of that was some ideas that have been floated around possible residential development, condos, a mixed use component. There had been some conversations about possibly the Yuma County opening up a health department branch on the property somewhere. So I try to incorporate those ideas, everything that had been floated around up to this point, into this conceptual design. And you can see more or less how we could still accomplish to some degree most of those ideas, even by incorporating this new community center parcel over there.
When you say to some 80-90%.
I say to some degree because I'm unsure how much of the land was to be dedicated for the health department and how much was to be dedicated for residential development. But they would still leave a sizable amount of land to do all those things still. No, what I meant was that it's still accomplishable, but it would have to be scaled down.
Yeah, this is a conceptual plan, and we still haven't made any decisions on it, so we can.
This is just as shown.
Yeah, if you recall, initially, we were envisioning to build more park facilities, and then the high school is going to build most of it. So our park has been shrinking and shrinking. So it's it's just the way I see it as a conceptual design, and at least if we council chooses, we can change the location and start from there, or if not, we can continue with our existing location, which, like I said, has constraints. And now that this land is would be available, then I think we can, if we make the decision, we can move with this concept.
Mayor. I like that idea and conceptual design and everything. And that's when we bought the land. It was one of the main things to build a park with, fields and everything. But now the high school is doing everything. By my other question, I know it's just a conceptual. We don't have to decide here, but financially, do we have the money to build? Because here we're building a brand new 45,000, not adding 20,000. Financially, are we able to do this, or it's just, it'll be nice if we, but it's a question I would like to ask. How we check on that? How we seen?
Right. When we look at this project and compare it to the one on Main Street, is the one that's on Main Street, we're shovel ready. We're ready to go, and that's going to be accomplished in a much quicker time frame. With this one, it would have to be phased out, and we would have to accommodate and look for the options of the financing of it. But however, we do have I'm sorry, Mayor, 1.3 for construction, 1.3 million for construction.
But that's for the building. So yeah, we would probably have to build some of the
infrastructure with it.
And over there, we would have to build, there's some parking, but most likely that parking, if we're gonna have a new building, we're gonna have to either remove and replace with new parking. Yeah. Smaller parking because the area is more constrained.
I think that right now we are at that pivotal point where it's about what route mayor and council would like to select, whether we proceed with Last Architects and we continue with our design review committee meetings and move forward to see what they present us, or if you would be open to this option.
If you ask me, I'm open to this option. I like this one better than that way we'll have development in that area. And we can use that money that we sell for that residential, the lots, to build the pond and the community center.
With you.
Can we use the 0.8 to?
Yeah, if we have it.
If we have any on the 0.8.
Yeah, we should, yeah. No, yeah, that's what it's for. 0.8.
So when you're talking about phasing out and I guess working in chunks, can you elaborate on that?
Yes, Saul, can you explain? Remember, we were talking about how we can face this one project into 3 steps.
Well, let's see. The way the project could be, this is just me brainstorming how we can make this a reality. The first thing to do is to come up with the plat itself, because as it's drawn, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parcels, which would require, in essence, a second subdivision north of Parkview. So perhaps that could be phase 1, doing the preliminary and final plats to the new, let's call it Parkview North subdivision. The second phase could perhaps be either raising some capital through the sale of one of the lots in order to complete certain improvements. There's many ways to engineer this, but it's certainly that point that Councilmember Galindo made about raising capital through the sale of land. I mean, that hadn't occurred to me. I hadn't even gotten that far as to how we're going to phase this, but I think it's certainly doable.
So the 1.3 is going to be for what?
The 1.3 million that we currently have is for the structure, for the building of the community center as is on Main Street. And that is already including the 110,000, I believe, of the last architect's design, which is what they will be costing the city. And that's what they had anticipated. Of course, if there is a change of location, well, that fee would of course be adjusted because there has been work already completed by them.
Okay, so let's say it's 1 million. So the 1 million would cover what in this project?
We would have to do the research on that. I think that at this point, it was just presenting this second option, but being very realistic and being very honest, this would take more work and it would take more time. So what's really important right now is the vision that Mayor and Council sees for the city of Somerton. Do you want us to work? Do you want staff to work towards the vision of ensuring that our Main Street is economic development and that is a priority for us to make sure that we attract and that we shift, someday the community center to a different location and that we make this other site more for city-owned property. So I think it is a pivotal point. It's a very important decision. It's a big one. So it's really on the vision.
Do you envision like what, maybe 3-4 years for it to be in completion?
Yes.
It depends on us.
Yes.
We're gonna allocate, but at least for now, the pond is budgeted and
Yes.
and also the building. But we would,
We would
probably have to build. Maybe this building doesn't go here. Maybe it's on the southern part, and we don't build the whole street until the future. But at least for now, the building and the pond and the infrastructure is there, so that can be done and part of the parking, not the whole thing. But we would have to allocate some additional funding because we don't have the developed site like we have it on Main Street.
And to add, in terms of the parking, we have been doing some research. I've been doing some research with our grant writer, and there are grants for parking. And so that's one of my jobs is to make sure that we try to get that funding for parking and so that city don't have to put it up front.
I have another question. So if let's say that council decides to go with this plan, would we be able to make that Olympic-sized pool on this site?
Excuse
We're
me?
not doing any other construction here on this site on Main Street.
Right. We would be shifting to a different location.
But make the pool larger for. I mean, it would be feasible if we had the funds to do that.
If we have funds, yes, we can do a lot.
It would
But
fit
it would
on
be-
the location.
but it would
to
fit on the
answer your question,
location.
yes.
Sorry. Can you explain exactly where this area is, way on the back by the
This here?
canal? Uh-huh.
Yes, of course, Council Member. So the roundabout there, that is at the northern end of the Parkview Commerce Center. That's currently under construction. So the site is directly north of Parkview. So in the concept as drawn, there's a continuation of that private roadway to the north to serve the future subdivision. And as drawn, the community center would be directly to the west of the pond and park.
There you go. Mhm.
There?
No. Lower. Because I turned it on and off because it wasn't working. There we go.
Did that answer your question, Councilmember Rodriguez?
Thank you.
And as we've been saying, this is just conceptual. As Mayor mentioned, it doesn't have to be there. It could be on the southern edge of that, and there would be no need to continue the street, thus eliminating some immediate infrastructure costs that would be necessary. But this is more to show you what is possible to the scale that it's possible once you bring this new 35-acre site into the conversation. And if it is something that the council would like to explore further at this point, there's plenty of additional research that we could look up for you.
Other questions or comments?
Just out of curiosity, what would be your recommendation?
This one.
I mean, I know it's
Well, if money was not an issue and thinking big and envisioning the city of Somerton and looking at the redevelopment plans for the city of Somerton and seeing how active and vibrant we're looking to have Main Street, then I would like this option if money was not the issue, because it would allow for a lot more economic development and vibrancy on Main Street. And then when we're talking about a pool on a different site, one of the concerns that I've always had is just, more privacy for our residents and this type of activity.
I agree with Marlene.
Yeah, and that was a whole conversation that we had. We're selecting the site when we had those other two. The other one was more constrained. The other one, council members expressed the economic development that we were going to be missing. So now that this opens up, that alleviates that. But we do know that we're probably going to have to invest some more on at least parking and well, mostly parking for at least initially before we have funding to build the park. But at least the pond is budgeted too, so that was anticipated. So it's just whatever we're gonna decide with the rest of the site, if we're gonna reduce it or are we gonna build a pool, are we gonna build something for events? So, that's still up in the air.
And just saying, it's a great idea and everything. I like it. And we're thinking of the financials where right now this year, but looking in 2-3 years, there's high school is coming, more commercial, maybe we'll get more revenue and, we can upside this. So it's a great idea. And I think it's going to work better. It's going to attract more people to that area too. I have a question. Who thought of this idea? Or who looked into it or
Really what it was is with various conversations and staff receiving, we're just trying to find a middle ground for that mayor and council can feel comfortable with the site location. I think that we are at a stage where it is, as the mayor says, early enough and not too late to reconsider and look at options. So as staff, we're just trying to present another idea. And then we'd have had, feedback from mayor and council. And we want to make sure that we present it before it being too late and for us to have construction begin and say, never mind, let's change the location. So right now we have received the first invoice from Last Architects. It's not too significant. So I think it is a good stage.
And the reason I asked, it's good. it's not only like option A or option B, and we're stuck to whatever, we have no other options. By taking the initiative to do things like this, I think, let us know that you guys also doing your job and presenting to us other option that I never even thought about, this thing. So just want to thank you guys for that. I think, yes, like, we don't have the money right now, but I think, we need to plan ahead of time. The city is growing, now if we do this with you guys, with this option, it's going to alleviate also, some on the pool side, so we can do something bigger, either a community event or making the pool bigger or whatever we decide at that time. So I, thank you for taking a look into it and coming with different options. I know you guys are just presenting and we decide, but I think appreciate, like Councilman Castillo said, what's your you say into this, because you guys are the ones that did all this work and we're just hearing and I think we'd like to know also what you guys think about this. So thank you for that.
And one thing that council has always asked is for city manager is that the like Councilman Galindo said, as we sell the land, that it goes back either to pay the debt payment for that, or even we decide to develop the park, but that those monies that we use them to invest in this area. And that goes also for the properties that we sold recently, the old city hall and the corner lot, that they go back to the development of our plans. We don't want it to come out of the less impact that we have in the general fund, but so that's hopefully we ensure that those monies are available. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item number 2, discussion on all matters related to creation of position of deputy city manager.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Armando Leon, HR specialist here for the city of Somerton. So this particular item is, as we were talking about infrastructure and so forth for the city, this is part of the human infrastructure to lay out what the future organization will look like for the city of Somerton. As all of you are aware, within the last 3 or 4 months, we've had significant impact to our human infrastructure here at the city. We had major losses as far as leadership, lead positions in certain departments. I believe that adding the deputy city manager position would be the future organization for the city. This, what this would allow is to have sort of a split duties between the city manager and deputy city manager. The way that I envisioned it as from the HR perspective is that the city manager would be more dedicated and more focused on the external accountabilities for the city and dedicate time for council needs, as well as surrounding communities and other demands that are part of the city manager's role. With that in mind, the deputy city manager would be maintaining more focused on the internal infrastructure of the city. So keeping track of budgeting items, and in particular, paying more close attention to processes, process improvement, that sort of thing. Again, the city is growing. We're expanding our positions, and with that, demands that we adapt to the growth. So I think this is a next logical step, is to add this particular position, and I think it'll position us and put us in a better position to meet the future demands for the city. Do you have any questions?
Questions or comments?
I have a,
Just have a comment.
Oh.
I think it's time, like you said, the city is growing, and also we have seen the turnarounds in the city manager and all the departments, and I think it's too much to handle for one person. I think this is a great idea. The new city manager can, like you said, it be in charge, making all the community needs and everything, and then deputy clerk, deputy city manager, internal, making sure that follows policies and procedures and all that. So I'm happy. I guess it's been.
Yeah, I think it's a logical way to separate those duties because I think the demands for the city manager, the demands that are the external demands for the city manager are practically a full-time role just to meet those demands. And then when that happens, then you neglect the internal structure. And by having these positions, one focus more on the external, another one focus on the internal management, I think it'll put us in a better position.
I have a comment, Mayor. I'm not opposed to create the position. I think, we all need help at some point. But my comment, I guess, is I don't want complete separation of, internal affairs away from the city manager, because I think it's important for him to, to be involved. But I also would like, if possible, his input on the hiring process. I know that there's a process where he has to wait with hires and whatever, but I would like him to be part of that process of, if we do go out and look and hire somebody.
Know what I think, Armando? I think this is great. Kind of like it's a contingency plan in the event that something doesn't work out. As Councilwoman Gonzalez mentioned, I mean, I'm pretty sure that whoever is assigned, they're going to be working collaboratively with our city manager, making sure that everything is running and functioning the way it's supposed to be. I'm pretty sure if there's any issues, they're going to be problem solving, certain situations. So, I think this is a great idea, especially if they're going to be focusing on processes and procedures. I think that's an excellent way to keep the city away from any possible or potential liability. If we follow policy, do things the way they need to be done, then, we really shouldn't ever have that need to worry. So, that's good. I fully like the idea on that. So thank you for that.
Please remind me or correct me if I'm wrong. When we were discussing this, was this going to be something that was going to be brought to council for next budget cycle?
This particular position, when we first created it, was again planning for the future, wherever that future would be. So the position was created not necessarily with a certain time frame, but to have it in place so that at whatever time council decides, because obviously the decision is up to council at what point in time we add the position and then move forward to fill it. But once the position's in place, then it opens it up for you to be able to make that decision to then proceed to fill it, move forward. In the absence of having that position in place, then we don't have that option. We would have to wait until maybe the next budget cycle.
Because if I recall correctly, I think that's what we had discussed, that we were going to entertain this.
Well, no, what we discussed was with the new city manager, we wanted a deputy because at least that's what we got from council. We're gonna, that was at least what I recall. And I
It was to create the position.
Right, to create the position, but to fill it was for next,
No, it wasn't for next
Okay.
fiscal year. And I guess that's why we're here. We're gonna vote on it and, well, not now, but
Mhm.
whenever, and I guess that's at least my, at least for me, it was to have it immediately. And like I said, and city manager, ultimately he's the one responsible for what the duties are going to be. But council's vision was that, we needed, someone that would look at the internal operations more and have a city manager more of the face of the city. But then again, there, of course, it's not going to be one responsibility for one person and the other. It falls under the city manager because this position wouldn't be under council. So.
Correct. It would be, the position would be on the organizational chart would be under the city manager. So there would have to be really good collaboration between the deputy city manager and the city manager. And obviously, I would envision the deputy city manager to be able to step into the city manager's role whenever that person is out of town or whatever the case may be for coverage.
Any other questions or comments?
One question, Councilmember Gonzalez mentioned that she wanted to be part of the meeting. Is that like when we hired the city manager, the whole council was there? Is that the same process or is it different?
No, once the city manager to be
No,
part.
I don't want to be part of,
Oh,
city
the process. I want the city manager to be involved.
I thought you said.
No.
Sorry. Okay. But when we hired, we have to be there, our council, or it's what's the process?
Well, it's a brand new position. So typically for the three positions that are council selects are the city manager on the contract, the city attorney, and the judge. All other positions are filled with human resources and staff hiring committees or interview committees. It's a brand new position, so I guess we would be open to council's input on this particular process.
Any other questions or comments? 6:41, meeting's adjourned.
La doctora.